Welcome back to Lacrosse TV. This is the PLL Week 3 recap. Our predictions this week went 2-2, so pretty average weekend. But some of the headlines: Boston falls to Philly in a back-and-forth barn burner. California falls to Utah in a one-goal battle. Maryland storms back from down 8-1 for a decisive victory over New York. And homecoming teams are now 0-3 after Philly gets outpaced by Denver in their second game of their doubleheader. So let's get right into it. Boston versus Philly, 3 stars. First, Michael Sowers, 2 goals, 5 assists for 7 points. Second, Ben Randall, 3 caused turnovers, 3 GBs, held Nolting to 1 goal, 2 assists on the game. And then 3, Owen Grant, 1 caused turnover, 2 GBs, and 3 points with 1 2-pointer and 1 assist. So positive and negative points for Boston. Positive, Mackesy jumped on the scene. This is exactly why they drafted him, to stick shots on the left wing. He had a patent Mackesy low-high windup, top right, bar down. It was he's looking, exactly how I think the Cannons wanted him to look and wanted him to play so far. I think, he's only going to get better from here. But shout out somebody on the Lacrosse TV Instagram called a Coulter Mackesy hat trick this weekend, so shout out them. Negative, though, Philly O looked unstoppable. They went on runs where they really were getting easy goals, absolute dunks. Sowers was feeding, all over the field. It just looked too easy. They were, Boston's D they just couldn't find a way to stop Philly from getting these easy dunks. Philly positive, right now they look like the best offense, if not the best team in the league. Not going to overreact to their doubleheader loss to Denver because, like we said, teams clearly have been struggling playing those back-to-back games, but their offense looks absolutely elite. They're getting easy goals every single game, which is the key to putting up, big numbers offensively. I mean, this offense, they're clicking so well. Like if I was going to give an example to someone a kid I'm coaching on what an offense should look like, it's this offense. They're winning matchups up top. They're winning matchups below. They're the best pick setting team in the league right now. They're setting picks all over the field, up top, below. They're getting open inside constantly with off-ball screens, just good hard back cuts. This team's been absolutely textbook so far. So really impressive, and this is just the start for them because they started a week later than everyone else. So I mean, if they're going to keep improving, this team's going to be really tough to beat. Game 2, California Utah. 3 stars, Tom Schreiber with 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points. Arden Cohen with 3 caused turnovers and 2 GBs. And then the third star, Mike Siss. He was 10 for 22, 45% at the X against TD. But he had, 1 goal and 1 assist for 2 points, which included, some game-deciding plays, some really ballsy plays. So positive for Utah was just Mike Siss getting going. Honestly, he was 34% at the dot before this game, and then to go 45 against TD, who's one of the best in the game. It should be huge for his confidence, and hopefully after making his assist and his goal, which were 2 game deciding plays, his goal being a go ahead goal with 7.5 left in the game. I'm thinking this could be a moment where he turns his season around and really starts heating up. This Utah offense has been messy, so they need as many possessions as they can get. I cannot emphasize how big I think the Sisselberger performance is for this team. The negative is that the offense is still a work in progress. Too many turnovers still, and some uncharacteristic performances so far by guys like, Ament and O'Keefe. We're not used to seeing them really not produce, and they haven't been yet. They produced every year of their career so far. So I'm still not worried about this Utah offense. They have all the pieces. They have, vets. They have young guys. They've got, people who can create their own shots, who can feed, who can finish. I think they're going to figure it out, but it's just clearly not there yet. They're just not clicking. Like we were talking about Philly, a lot of their goals look easy. It's a complete opposite with this team. The Utah, most of their goals really have to work hard to get a goal, which is definitely not what you want out of an offense. But California, positive. Like we said last week, this team is never out of a game. They came back from down 4-0 against Carolina last weekend, and this weekend they fought back from down 5-0. They tied the game before the Sisselberger go-ahead goal in the fourth with 8-ish minutes left. So this team's really never out of a game. They're really fun to watch. Andrew Kelly looks like a coach that any player would want to play for. He looks like just a great team guy. This team rides on momentum, and when they're hot, they're tough to stop. Negative, unfortunately, is that for a team that does go up and down a lot, their unsettled defense was a little troublesome. I think in the Utah had the 5-0 run to start the game, and I think 3 or 4 of them were unsettled offense. And just because of the way this team plays, like they're going to have to play unsettled defense a lot of the time throughout the rest of the season. So I think if they want to win big games, they're gonna have to step up a little bit in the unsettled defense aspect of the field. But New York versus Maryland, game 3, 3 stars. Nardella, 16 for 29, 55% against Baptiste. And the prediction here was, if Maryland wants a shot at winning this, he's going to have to pop off, which he did. Second star, Connor Schellenberger, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. And third star, TJ Malone, 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points. Positive and negative points. Maryland, the off-ball movement just came alive. Potter, Carroll, Heacock, they totally woke up. This team looked completely different than they did in the second half against Philly last weekend, where it was completely stagnant with no matchups won, no off-ball movement. They finally were setting, picks galore for Pinnell, Rambo, Malone to feed into the guys we just mentioned. But I mean, the guys off-ball were working tirelessly, hard back cuts, off-ball screens and everything. Like this team looked like a complete different offense from last weekend. It was really promising to see. I honestly didn't think that they were going to be able to do it, but they did. And the negative though, obviously they only let up 3 second half goals. So their defense played a great game, but championship teams don't go down 8-1 to start the game. The defense was letting up really easy goals like they were against Philly the week before, just like losing guys off ball, absolute dunks. If they want to compete for the championship, like they're gonna have to clean that up. They can't let up runs like that. They can't let up these easy goals. Pros aren't gonna mess up a crease dunk. It's just not gonna happen. So they definitely have to clean that up. For New York, positive in the first half, they looked like regular season Atlas from last year, like absolutely dominant offensive minded lacrosse, highlight reel goals, 3 BTBs. With the trainer one, that was the Sports Center number 1. It was maybe the best behind the back goal I've ever seen. They had the pole BTB from, I think it was Carpenter, and then Xander obviously had one as well. This team at its peak might be the best team in the league, and they're definitely my favorite team to watch. But the negative is that they're inconsistent. The inconsistency has been their downfall so far. This team all of a sudden, they looked completely different first half and second half. The offense went from just looking connected, cohesive, creative to just scoring 3 second half goals. Baptiste went from winning the faceoff battle to losing in bunches and letting Nardella fuel a game-winning run for Maryland. And then Entenmann goes from making clean saves everywhere. I think the stat was before this game was like 44% clean saves, which is crazy. To just not seeing it like he usually does. So, I mean, the ups and downs are crazy with this team, but, at their peak, they're definitely championship contenders. So, game 4, Philly versus Denver, 3 stars. Jake Pacino, number 1, with 1 cost turnover, 5 GBs, and 3 points, 1 goal and 2 assists. 2, Logan McEnany, 14 saves, 66% save percentage, and 3, Pat Kavanaugh, 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points. Positive and negative points for Denver. Pat Cav got going. I think it was a Joe Keegan stat that he leads the league in shots on goal. So, if he can start seeing these shots go in, like this guy, he could be an MVP candidate. Who knows? He was 3 for 10 this game, which is, a meaningful step up from where he's been. So if he starts heating up shooting wise, the league should be put on notice. But finally saw McEnany start, and he absolutely balled out. Seemingly their goaltender issues solved like that. I would imagine he starts the rest of the season, barring any crazy cold streaks or anything of that nature. And Pacino's just a certified stud. Insane stat line that we just read. Definitely player of the game. He was impactful in every phase of the game, from defense to middle of the field to offense. Negative though is the same offensive woes. They won the game. They only scored 9 goals. A lot of it was transition based, which is great. Their transition was elite. Their defense looked elite, but just still too stagnant on offense. If their offense can develop like the other phases of this team has so far, they're a championship contender. But for now, they still have to worry about making playoffs. So, all right, we have the Lacrosse TV Week 4 power rankings. We have Philly taking Boston's spot at number 1. We have Boston 2, Utah 3, California 4, Maryland 5, New York 6, Denver 7, and Carolina 8, with the biggest movers being Philly jumping from 4 to 1 and the Atlas dropping from 3 to 6. This was the PLL Week 3 recap. Thanks for watching Lax Rats TV, and we'll see you for the PLL Week 4 preview.